Holosky podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Steven.
And Kyle.
And if we're here and you're hanging out with us, that means it's Monday, Holo Cult. So here we are, beginning of the work week. We're here to help you push through. Just get the party started. You know how it is. So today, I've got an interesting case that I've always kind of followed, I guess. Heard about it. Never really researched it, but I did now. And it's about 2 bodies found on a hill. So stick around for that.
Cool.
After these housekeeping bits. So check us out at all our social medias, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, Discord, Reddit. Search up the Holosky podcast. You'll find us there. Be part of the community. Join the cult. You know the drill. It's a good time. If you have a paranormal experience you'd like for us to feature on a future show, which will air on Thursdays, Kyle has some information for you.
I do. It's pretty simple. It's always in the show notes, so if you ever get lost, go there. But it is going to be holoskypodcast@gmail.com. Write your story out in as much detail as you possibly can, and then shoot it over to that email, and then we'll get it out. We'll get it in an episode. It's going to be perfect.
It's an all-around good time. Just a good time. If you'd like to support the show, there's plenty of ways you can do it. You can go over to Patreon, $7 a month. You get all kinds of extra stuff, extra bonus content, early content, ad-free content, whole bunch of good stuff. And I mean, $7 a month, you can't even get a McDonald's meal for $7. So not a bad gig.
Isn't that the truth?
Not a bad gig. Also, if you're going to purchase, if you've ever even thought about becoming a Patreon member and you purchase through the Apple podcast app, you're going to want to do it before November because they're about to pop a 30% tax on that bitch in November. So either get grandfathered in or do not purchase through there. Just go to the website and do it that way because we're not trying to make Apple any more money. All right. You can also go to holoskypodcast.com. We got some merch over there. Find yourself a shirt. Find yourself a nice hat. Get some stickers. It's a good time. Just rep the Holo Cult. It's awesome. Share the show word of mouth. That's the best thing you can do. Help getting the show out there, help falling on new ears. Anything we can possibly get together and get out there is appreciative.
And guess what? It's working. You guys are doing a great job.
It is. You have carried the podcast. We're but the mouthpieces. You all are putting in the work. What else we got here? You can go to wherever you listen to podcasts and leave us a wonderful 5-star rating and review, and I'll find it and I'll read it if I find it and feature it on a show. Today's, I may have already read this one, but at this point, I'll just read it again because it is what it is. So this week's 5-star rating and review comes to us from our friend Ty Holloman Reed. Ty says, great podcast, 5 stars. Saw y'all from suggestions in my feed. Really happy I started following and listening. Holo Cult for life.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Ty, we appreciate you taking the time to write us in and leaving us a good rating. That really does help kind of push the podcast through the waters of the paranormal and kind of keep us afloat where people can find us. So we really do appreciate it. And I'm glad the algorithm was working because a lot of times it's working against us. Not this time. So yeah, you guys have been running the 5 stars. So keep it up. We're almost at 1,000 on Apple. We're getting close.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. No pressure, but we're at 962. We're only 38 away.
Push it.
Like
Static X.
Static X. Another way you can support the show is support our sponsors. They're here if you want to buy some cool dog food. Think about Badlands. If you want to check a VPN, support our sponsors and they continue supporting us. So definitely keep that in mind. We were told we talked too much at the beginning of the show, so we're just going to jump right into it. Just going to jump right in.
It happens.
People don't want to listen.
Sometimes we get carried away.
People don't want to listen to people talk on podcasts.
It's okay.
You know what I mean? So today...
That means more dubstep.
More dubstep. We did have a person reach out. Here I go talking again. Good thing I didn't leave a timestamp. We had a person reach out and wants a 12-minute track of just the intro.
Jesus.
Because He said that he drives around town. He just keeps playing it over again as loud as he can. So I might have to break into my old editing skills
that's
here
fun.
and make him a 12-minute banger. We appreciate it, though.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's get into it. This is the mystery of the lead mask case, which takes some turns here. Let me tell you.
I kind of had a assumption that this was that case because you said the guys on the hill, and I'm like, man, there's only one case that I know of with some guys on a hill. I don't know every detail of the case, but I have heard of it.
I didn't know whether to title it the lead mask mystery or summoning Martian ghosts, because
I was thinking more of the man in the iron mask.
Yeah,
but man in the lead mask. We could get Leonardo DiCaprio.
Maybe he was one of them.
He probably was
reincarnated.
I could see that.
Yeah, but it takes some weird turns toward the end, and let me tell you,
I like weird turns. It's a good thing.
It goes off. So on August 17th, 1966, two electronic repairmen from Campos de Goiatesca in Brazil left town saying they were going to go buy supplies for work and purchase a used car. They allegedly had the money for the vehicle with them. The men, Miguel Jose Viana, who was, I believe, 32, and his friend Manuel Piera de Cruz, who was 34, stopped at a bar to get a bottle of water. The bartender later said that Miguel appeared to be in a hurry and he was frequently checking his watch. That was the last time anyone saw the pair alive, so we think. So on a chilly August day in 1966, a young man named Jorge da Costa Alves decided to take his kite into the hills to fly it. Nice day, gonna go out, do some hiking, fly a kite. He and his friends wandered through the hills of Vintum in Niterói, Brazil, a desolate area on the outskirts of Rio de Janeiro. He was making his way through the hills and came upon a horrific sight. Laying in the hills, or in the grass of the hills, were two bodies, both male, laying side by side. They were wearing matching suits, as well as matching raincoats. Both had their hands rested behind their head, like they had just laid down to take a nap. No signs of a struggle or violence were evident. There was no apparent injuries or wounds on the body. What made the scene even more peculiar was the fact that both men were wearing lead masks covering their eyes. They were about the size of a pair of sunglasses, and they were made of pure lead. This clearly startles our friend Jorge, and he takes off down the hill to the local authorities to go tell them, hey, I just stumbled upon some dead bodies. But at this time, it was getting dark. The authorities thought the hill might be a little too dangerous. They're like, you know what? As soon as the sun comes up, we'll go check it out. We're not trying to mess with it tonight. This will kick off a series of events that turn into one of the weirdest investigations I probably ever looked into. And at the end, unfortunately, spoiler alert, you're going to be left with more questions than answers because that's just the way it goes sometimes.
I would say that is the paranormal.
That is the paranormal.
You never really get the definitive answers in any of these cases.
No, especially not this one.
It just sounds completely out of place already.
Yeah, it gets weird. So by the time the police arrived the next day, there was already local media that had heard word of mouth about the bodies, which we know how media works. They were probably there before the guys even died, honestly. But clearly this wasn't doing them any favors, it being what possibly could be an active crime scene. They were also taking pictures of the bodies before they were even taken to the coroner's office. So if you decide to dig around on the internet, you can find pictures of the crime scene. They're not bad. The ones that I came across, I might share them to the Patreon as kind of an extra. Haven't decided yet, but you can find them on the internet. The scene, as I started to describe before, had two male bodies, both wearing matching business suits. Outside of the business suits, they were also wearing matching raincoats, which definitely stood out because of how rough the terrain was where the bodies were found. Investigators were immediately like, why are these guys out here on this hill in the middle of the thick weeds in business suits? Right? Weird. Weirder still is both bodies were wearing lead eye masks, as I had mentioned. Near the bodies, investigators also found 2 towels and an empty bottle of water. It was noted that one of the men had the receipt for the bottle in his pocket, and it was purchased at a nearby bar. On the men's body, they also found a small amount of money, nothing really substantial. They also found a notebook near the men's body that seemed to be filled with notes from the men. We'll talk about the lead masks for a minute before we get into some other stuff. The mask worn by the men kind of looked like crudely fashioned sunglasses cut out of lead sheets, right? Without the legs of the sunglasses. It just covered their eyes perfectly. There were no slits cut in them to see through them. They were just solid lead masks that went over their eyes. They were held in place by little straps that connected at the back of the head. The purpose of these masks still remain a mystery to this day. There was a lot of speculation as to what they were for. Were they shielding the men from possible radiation? Were they shielding the eyes from a super bright light? Still, like I said, we don't really have any confirmation as to what these masks were meant for.
It doesn't really make sense either that I do get the thought process behind it was shielding them from something because lead has been used for that.
Yeah.
But you would think that if radiation is present, it's going to affect more than just their eyes.
Exactly.
Right? You know what I mean? Like, I've been sitting here thinking while you were explaining and describing the settings, and I cannot, for the life of me, come up with a reason why they would have it over just their eyes.
It's almost the opposite of how you would think you would want to be protected from radiation.
Yeah.
You think you want your whole face, your whole brain, everything encased and covered, and with just your eyes not necessarily open, but being able to see. So it's kind of like exactly the opposite.
Yeah, and then they're in business suits. And what was their profession again?
They were They called them electrical technicians. So I'm assuming just an electrician.
Yeah. Usually not in requirement of a business suit.
No.
And then they had raincoats on top of that.
Yeah. So in the initial investigation, it almost seems like they were prepared to get soaked of some sort.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, then they said there were 2 towels present.
Exactly.
Which is even weirder.
It's strange.
And then they were laying there like they were stargazing.
Chilling.
Yeah.
Just chilling, arms behind the head, just waiting for something to happen.
I mean, I don't know. Because I just don't understand why lead over solely the eyes. Because I could understand laying up there and doing the like CE5 thing, the meditation and whatnot. So I don't know. Maybe the lead mask was to forcibly keep their eyes closed.
I mean, it could be,
but it's still a weird choice of material because you could have used the towels to wrap around your head.
Yeah, and the fact that they weren't bound, like they're all judging by all accounts, like they went there on their own to be there. They prepared to be there.
But the other oddity is that he did have the bar receipt in his pocket, and they had a urgency about him when they were at the bar.
Yeah.
Like they had places to be.
That'll not make more sense, but it'll come into terms a little bit further in the show, the whole receipt thing. I know a lot of articles that I read kind of stood out that like this receipt was important to a certain extent because like when you go into theories, you immediately think maybe they went up there as like maybe a group taking of their own lives. But a lot of people point out, hey, this guy in Brazil at the time in 1966, you could go get your bottle of water, your glass bottle, and if you brought it back with a receipt, you can get your refund back. You can get a recyclable stipend or whatever.
Oh, okay.
So they're thinking he kept the receipt in his pocket so he can get his money back for his bottle. That's not something that a person essentially that was going to take their lives would do. You don't save the receipt.
Yeah, and like I said, the state of urgency in the one gentleman, for whatever, rings a bell. Like, why? He had places to be. Why is there a time frame to be on this hill?
It's weird.
You know what I mean? Doesn't make sense.
It goes way off the rails, bro.
Good.
Way off the rails.
I'm trying to definitely be there for that.
So, as I mentioned before, near the bodies, they discovered a notebook. I heard there were two different not explanations, but two different scenarios that I found in my research. Some people said that there was a notebook next to the body. Other people said that the notes were found in the pocket of one of the men. So I just went with notebook because it sounded more cryptic, I guess, that they had this little notebook with them. Anyway, it contained a bunch of handwritten notes. Notes that have been deciphered contain information that goes as follows. Also, keep in mind that most of these accounts were in Portuguese when they were originally taken down, and through the years, they've been translated into English, so take that for what you will. Page 1 of these notes contains some list of electrical part numbers for electrical parts and the algebraic equation for calculating the strength of an electrical current, E equals IR. This makes more sense, of course, because they identified them two men as electrical technicians. I keep wanting to say electrical engineers, but so they were from Campos, which was over 175 miles away from where their bodies were discovered. So they had traveled quite a distance to get here. Both men, again, were electronic technicians, so the list of equipment was fitting. On page 2, it's where it starts to get a little bizarre. Keep in mind, these translations are from Portuguese. I wrote that down, but I jumped the gun on it. Page 2, quote, Sunday, 1 tablet after the meal. Monday, 1 tablet in the morning on an empty stomach. Tuesday, 1 tablet after the meal. Wednesday, 1 tablet before going to bed. Obviously, this seems like some sort of medication regimen. But further investigation showed, when asking their family, that neither men were on any regular medication or were sick and in need of a prescription of any medication. It should be noted that the Wednesday tablet that they took would have been taken just shortly before they died, according to their time of death. So whatever was in this tablet essentially should still be in their system in the autopsy. Keep that in mind.
Well, and it reminds me of what year was this?
66.
66. Reminds me of the Project Preserve Destiny. I think that's what it was, where homie was tasked in the military to speak with extraterrestrials through telepathy and whatnot. When he was doing that, he was taking some unknown pill. I don't think it was on quite that regimen. I think it was twice a day, once and twice a day. It kind of changed formulation through his experience, but if I remember correctly, either way, he was taking a pill with water.
It's
to further communication, facilitate it somehow. I don't know how it facilitated, but
keep that in mind. That's good that you made the reference, because once we get down, it gets more weird. Page 3, also strange, had what seemed to be another set of instructions. 1630, be at determined location. 1830, swallow capsules after the effect. Protect metals. Wait for mask signal. This detail had led some people to believe that the deaths were part of a prearranged plan, adding another layer to the weirdness of the mystery. Because they clearly, 1630, be at the determined location. I'm assuming this hill is probably the determined location, because they refer to the metals and the mask signal. So it's all part of something bigger than these guys just being found on a hill.
As of right now, I don't get the vibe that it's a part of a death ritual.
No,
I don't vibe that.
And it doesn't feel like anything nefarious went on.
No,
it feels like they fully planned on being here doing whatever they were doing.
Yeah.
Right. It's also noted that the notes were written in almost some sort of shorthand. Like the men were taking instructions from someone else and just quickly jotting them down just to try to get them written down to remember. Again, it didn't help the investigators very much in solving the deaths, but it did kind of help confirming that the men had planned to be here at this particular time. So they weren't necessarily brought here against their will. They weren't necessarily brought here after death. So it eliminates a little bit of those areas of foul play which you assume when you stumble upon two bodies in the middle of the woods, essentially.
Yeah. Which, and to be fair, the tablets would explain the bottle of water as well.
Oh yeah. I didn't think
towels
about that.
Towels and raincoats and suits are still a little bizarre. But
the conditions of the bodies were also perplexing. While the bodies showed advanced sign of natural decomposition, they showed absolutely no sign of animal or insect predation.
Which is extremely relevant in abduction cases.
I think I wrote that exact line down. It's crazy considering the timeline the detectives put together have the men's bodies being in that location no less than 3 days. No vultures, no coyotes, no foxes, no beetles, no nothing. Which leads you to suspect that there might be something wrong with these bodies to the point that the animals know that they should not be consumed or fucked with. Could it be something supernatural, like, UFOs, as we've heard before? In cases of animal mutilations and human mutilations, you also hear that there are lacks of signs of predation. It also could be due to possible radiation to keep the animals away as well. So it kind of goes back and forth there.
Wild theory here. Wild theory.
Well, I'm here for it.
Kind of chewing it around. How to start this. I wish somebody would have had the thought process of checking the weather if they assumed that the men had been deceased for 3 days when they were found, to have checked the weather where they were originally from. Because I also have a thought process of, what if these men didn't die on that hill? Because we've heard cases of alien abductions of people being returned with, say, their clothes on backwards. So there is like what I'm getting at is not so much that anything was out of place in that context, but the fact that they were put in a position of almost like sleep, like, because it just seems like the aliens, when they return, they want it to be blended in. Because if they didn't care, why would you undress an abductee and then redress them to place them back into their environment, right?
That's a theory that I had not heard in looking through, that it was possible an abduction and replaced in that specific area.
Also, another thing real quick, I get the vibe that I'm also in agreement that these men most likely, I don't know what it would be, whether they were in a chat room, they were getting instructions from somewhere, whatever the case may be. So with that being said, the fact that they're wearing suits makes me contemplate, were they in contact with some type of governmental entity?
Mm-hmm.
Because you think of an electrician, right? Like, the only time you would see someone of their stature wearing a suit would be for like an important job interview, or you're in contact with somebody that would kind of require you want to present yourself in a particular way.
Yeah. And I mean, electricians are pretty blue collar job.
Yeah,
They're like
exactly.
we are. You see me and Kyle wearing suits, something's up.
And that's kind of what I was wondering, is if these men wore suits because they were going to meet some type of said government entity or whatever entity, and that when they initially made this meetup, was it raining out? Did they put rain suit? You know what I mean? Because that would be a logical kind of thing. And not to mention, I kind of feel like an electrician might be more apt to have in a rain suit, yada, 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 because they're a little bit more blue collar, those situations.
The raincoats do get explained a little further on.
Okay.
And you're right on par with that. The toxicology reports basically turn up nothing. I've seen different reports that this was because of the level of decomposition. Also, perhaps the investigation was fumbled a little bit in getting the results out. But regardless, the test results came back negative, which is strange considering there are records clearly of them taking a capsule of some sort. So it should be in their system, judging on when they took the last capsule, if that was when they took the last capsule, as to when the two men perished. Something should essentially be there. They did determine that neither of the men were poisoned by a known substance. Keep in mind, known substance. They also eliminated any medications, drugs, supplements, tablets, as well as containers for any of those found near the bodies or in the system of the bodies. The rest of the autopsy revealed that neither men had any sorts of external damage to their bodies. No bullet holes, no stab wounds, no cuts, no bruises, no abrasions, no nothing. Followed through, and they had no internal damage either. All of their organs were intact and showed no signs of trauma except for their hearts, which showed that both men had suffered from some sort of cardiac event. The police began to tie up loose ends by speaking with the families of the men. They slowly began to put together a timeline. They found out that Miguel and Manuel had told their families on the morning of August 17th that they needed to go to Sao Paulo to buy electronic equipment and a car. They had taken money with them, about 3 million cruzeros, which equated a couple $1,000s in the US to purchase this car. Keep in mind that they were found with only 161 cruzeros on their body. So there is quite a bit of money unaccounted for.
But did they buy the car?
Nobody knows. Nobody knows.
Gotcha.
They, let me think here. So I did some math as to a couple $1,000s in 1966 would equate to about $24,000 US, which is probably going to equate to even more in Brazil. So it was a fairly significant amount of money that they were traveling around with. At about 9 a.m., one of their friends, Alicio Gomez, gave them a ride to the local bus station. Gomez wanted to walk them in and see them off on their trip, but the two gentlemen were adamant about them just being dropped off at the station. They didn't want anybody to go in with them. So he just dropped them off and went about his business as he watched them walk inside. Instead of traveling to Sao Paulo, obviously the two men boarded a bus for Niterói, which is almost 400 miles away from where they said they were going. They went in the absolute opposite direction. After arriving in Niterói around 2 p.m., the men made several stops. It's reported that they stopped at an electronics store, which they had both previously been to before, but they didn't buy anything. The people that worked there said that they didn't talk to any other customers. They didn't talk to any of the staff. They just briefly walked around the store and then left. Apparently, after they left, it had started raining. So then they stopped at a local store where they bought identical raincoats. The cashier told police that they both seemed like they were in a rush, and neither man took time to even open the raincoats or put them on before they went out into the street, which makes it weird.
Yeah.
That you would buy raincoats for the rain at that particular time and then not use them. So it makes you wonder if maybe the raincoats weren't specifically for the rain, maybe for something else.
I'm still getting very cloak and dagger vibes.
It's sus.
Like, I don't know. Because why go to the electronics store and not do anything there?
It's almost like they were trying to leave a timeline. Like make people see where they're at.
Or they had a specific set of orders to follow. Because it makes you feel like one of them cases where it's like, all right, now meet me. You have to, the drop off is at the electronics store here at 4 p.m. and they show up and they get another text message of, oh, no, now you got to meet at the Little Caesars down the street and, so on and so forth. It just, I don't know, it feels very cloak and dagger.
Loyalty test.
Yeah.
You're going to do what we say.
Yeah. It's very cloak and dagger. Make sure they're not being followed because they gave that inkling too. Like, I don't want you to go to see me go into the bus station. I don't know. It's very cloak and dagger.
It's weird. It is weird.
It makes you wonder what the fuck these guys got themselves into.
We still don't know to this day. They stopped at a bar, as I've talked about before, where they purchased their bottle of water. The waitress that served them noted that Manuel and Miguel both seemed especially nervous, and they kept checking their watches. It's interesting that they kept the receipt for the bottle of the mineral water, which, as I noted before, that you can return it and get a refund with proof of purchase. No other patrons at the bar remembered seeing the men leave, so they couldn't comment on whether they left alone or with other people. So the cops kept digging, and they were able to make contact. They weren't able to make contact with anyone selling a vehicle that had talked to the men. Neither of the men had any appointment with any dealerships, and there were no independent sellers that the police could track down that had been in contact with Manuel or Miguel. So basically, all the reasons that they gave their families and friends as to where they were traveling and what they were doing were all lies.
Yeah, it was a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah, they didn't buy a car. They didn't buy any electrical items. They didn't go to the city they said they were going to. All just a facade. Another witness came forward and stated that at 5 p.m. on the 17th, she saw the two men being dropped off at the base of Ventum Hill in Niterói by a blonde man driving a Jeep along with two other unknown passengers. These three would be the last people to see the two men alive, at least that we know of. As I stated before, police pretty much ruled out foul play with no signs of injury, and both men still had money on them. So robbery was immediately eliminated as a motive. Because 160,000 cruzeros, I don't know what that equates to, but it's still, if it's going to be a robbery, you're going to take the money.
Yeah.
Planned suicide was kind of written off as well, because it stated that both men had successful careers. They were well respected in their home life and their community life. There were no signs of troubling family life, coupled with the fact that they didn't mention taking their own lives in any of the notes that were found, which made it even more unlikely. And again, the fact that Miguel held the receipt to his bottle of water insinuates that he was fully prepped to get his money back after they were done doing what they're doing. You don't want to get your money back if you're not going to be alive, right?
As of right now, in regards to the money, I feel very one of two. If we're taking the car purchase out of the equation, it leaves me with either blackmail or some type of deal.
Which is one of the theories that maybe the men were doing some sort of radioactive black market selling and trading, which apparently was not that uncommon in Brazil at the time.
Like, what would that consist of?
I don't know. Some nuclear materials or some shit. It's hard to tell.
It doesn't make sense why you would only want to protect yourself from radiation in your fucking eyes.
Yeah, well, maybe they just weren't that smart.
Because you get
no disrespect to
you
the
would
dead.
get radiation burns all over your body if you're concerned. Not to mention, real quick, they had a potential cause of death of cardiac problems. In one of my last episodes, we talked about radiation affecting hearts. I know it was more in dogs than people, but that still would suggest some type of ability to affect people's hearts.
Yep. And it should be noticed that their bodies showed no signs of like contact radiation burns.
Right.
There was no signs of any sort of injury.
No, I have this. I don't know. I'm so confused.
I like to watch the wheels turn.
Yeah, like I'm trying to come up with scenarios that make sense.
I'll tell you right now, none of them do. As we get through, you're going to be at the end being like, we still don't know what the fuck happened.
Yeah, because we don't know more about the guys. You know, were they two buddies like us that were into the fucking weird, and some asshole was like, "Yo, dude, check this out."
Wait till the occult starts coming in.
If you give me $24,000, I can tell you how to essentially prophetize your future by making contact with extraterrestrials. You just got to put on these dumbass lead masks, go up on this hill and meditate and summon them, and then the future's unveiled to you.
You are way more spot on than you want to be right now.
For some reason, I don't doubt that.
From here, the police investigations start to dry up a little bit. Their leads aren't really leading anywhere worthwhile to help them solve what happened to these two men. So they start to dig a little bit deeper. They start investigating and reaching out to other detectives from other cities. It gets weird again. In this round of the investigation, one of the detectives come across an unusual story from a few years prior. In 1962, 4 years before the deaths of Manuel and Miguel, an extremely similar death had also occurred that involved a young electronic technician named Hermes who was found dead on a hill in Rio de Janeiro called Cursor Hill, who was also wearing a
lead mask. So now you have an established pattern.
Strange.
Like there's definitely something else going on. There's something going on.
According to the report, Hermes had gone on this hill, taken some sort of hallucinogenic, put his lead mask on, and waited with the intent of picking up radio signals with his mind. Obviously, one of these cases are bonkers enough, but two of them now, you need to start scratching your head.
And to me, it still doesn't explain the lead over the eyes. Because what would be the difference in keeping your fucking eyes closed over having a lead hunk over your eyes, which I assume is probably not the smartest thing to do.
No, I don't know.
I mean, I don't know that it would initially cause massive problems, but we all know lead is not exactly great for you.
No, it's not going to kill you immediately.
Yeah.
So clearly there has to be a connection, right?
I mean, I would think so.
Wrong.
Oh, okay.
As far as the detectives go and the investigation goes, they could not find any connection between Manuel, Miguel, and Hermes outside of the similar occupations, similar manners of death, and their homemade lead sunglasses.
So how the fuck is there not a connection? Like, there's a very specific word I want to use right now, but I definitely can't.
They said they can't connect them together outside of the similarities in the cases.
Are they fucking stupid? Come on, like how? I mean, I get it that they are obviously not going to think in the lines that we think of, so it will be harder for them to explain things. However,
there's
at the end of the day,
a little bit of a connection.
I can understand there not being like a concrete connection outside of the fact that it's completely the same case, regardless, and the fact that they're intelligent enough to just dismiss it and go, no, they're not related.
Yeah, these are exactly the same scenario. I would immediately thought lead glasses serial killer. That's right where my brain would have
went. I don't know what I would have thought.
The lead mask massacre.
But the fact that I definitely wouldn't think these are completely unrelated.
Well, they did.
Because there's if anything, I would go, there is something here that I'm missing. The connection I'm missing right now. I need to find the connection.
Can you imagine being that detective and like your leads have all ran dry. You just don't know what the fuck is going on in this case. You start digging in around other cities, seeing if anything's similar, and you find exactly the same case. And you're like, Chief, look at this shit. He goes, nah, don't worry about it.
It's not even connected at all.
No. What made you think that?
Yeah.
Was it the lead masks? Idiot.
People are fucking infuriating sometimes, man. It is so stupid.
It's awesome.
The intelligence is through the roof right now.
So the police are clearly struggling at this point. So they begin to start interviewing extended family members outside of the like nuclear family of the two men. They interviewed Miguel's niece, who came forward and said that she actually ran into both of them at the bus station the day that they were leaving. Miguel told her that they were going to Sao Paulo to buy a used car, but she said his demeanor was weird. So she thought, like, you're not telling me the truth. So she started to press him. Finally, he caved, and he told her that he wasn't buying a car. They had a very different reason for the trip. He told her that nobody could know why they were making the trip, at least not right now. He then told her that when they returned from their trip, he would let her know whether or not he fully believes in Spiritism.
Yeah. All right. So blackmail's out of the question. Now you have some type of deal being made with a cultist, whatever label you want to pitch on that. And it's even weirder. Like, talk about a shot in the dark. Man, I've got fuck all for leads. What should I do? You know what? I got a great idea. Let's go talk to extended family members that most likely don't have conversations with these people every fucking day.
And then
it's a great idea. And then you luck out, and then they're like, yeah, I ran into him, and which is even crazier to me, the fact that that's all it took. Like, I'm going to lie to my wife and my immediate family. And then when somebody, my extended family member, so I'm thinking like a cousin or some shit, is like, you're being a little sus there, Kyle. And I'm like, you're right.
Here we go.
Holy shit. Like, you caught me. I'm freaking out now.
I'll tell you, but
you can't tell anybody. I don't, that sounds far-fetched to me, but also people are not that intelligent, so there's that.
Yeah. So if you're like me, when I got to this point in this research, you're thinking, what the fuck is Spiritism? Because I have no idea what it was at that point. Well, I got a little information for you.
Okay, let's figure this out.
Spiritism is an occult religion that first emerged in 19th century France. Its founder was a man by the name of Allan Kardec. Kardec was a translator, a philosopher, an author, and an educator with an interest in psychic and mediumistic phenomena. He initially was a skeptic who believed that all unexplained phenomena were explained by nature, science, hallucination, or fraud. So, around the early 1860s, he did what everybody else was doing at the time.
Acid.
Better. Just started going on a tour in Europe, seeing seances.
Oh,
just seance after seance.
Eating lead.
No, he's seancing.
Okay.
He's like, I don't believe in this stuff. It can all be explained. Let me get out there and start doing some boots on the ground research. I want to see it as is.
It's definitely a weird choice, though, to not believe at all and then go, I'm going to go to seances.
Yeah, because once he got there and started looking into things, he realized, hey, there is some shit that cannot be explained by nature.
Yeah.
So during his investigations, Kardec coined the term Spiritism to kind of encapsulate his ideas and theories that he got from his observations of his seance tour. In 1862, he published Spiritism in the Simplest Expression, which summarized the philosophy of Spiritism. I could go on for like ever. I could just pull up the wiki and read all of this shit about Spiritism, but we don't have time for that. So he coined the term in 1857, defined as the doctrine founded on the existence, manifestations, and teaching of spirits. Kardec claimed that Spiritism combines scientific, philosophical, and religious aspects of the tangible universe and what he described as the universe beyond transcendence. After observing a table-turning kind of seance, he was intrigued that the table seemed to move despite lacking muscles. The table provided answers to questions without having a brain. So the spiritualists claim that, quote, it is not the table that thinks, it is us, the souls of men who have lived and died on earth. Kardec also focused his attention on a variety of other paranormal claims, such as incorporation and mediumship. So essentially, he said that what kind of Spiritism kind of boils down to is that the body and the immortal soul are two separate things. When you die, the body goes away. The immortal soul can continue into reincarnation, and the soul can transfer knowledge to us from the spiritual realm. Kind of like what seances do, essentially.
Right. Yeah.
He had this like interesting sort of test to where he put together thousands of questions. Like the dude was, if anything, he was thorough. Thousands of questions and sent them to 10 completely unrelated, unknown to one another mediums. And he got all these 1,000 responses back. And as he was going through eliminating things that could be explained by nature and shit, he had a whole bunch that he could not explain that were similar and linked between these mediums. So he immediately thought, hey, there's something beyond what we got here. It should be noted that Spiritism has since spread around the globe. There's about, as of 2010, 30 million practitioners of Spiritism. And guess where one of the biggest countries that indulges in Spiritism is? Brazil, where it's called the Spiritismo. And as of 2010, get this, it's the third most popular religion there.
Interesting.
4 million practicing members in Brazil.
So it kind of adds up then, realistically. I feel like these dudes were looking for something to most likely financially benefit their life, because that is kind of the root of all man. Could be something else, some level of enlightenment.
They were looking for something.
They then took hallucinogenic drugs, which we know through other accounts will give you, at bare minimum, the feeling of interacting with higher dimensional beings, take you to a whole new plane of existence. And if I had to guess, the lead masks were nothing more than a form of sensory deprivation.
And I didn't think about that.
Just think about it. Technically, the hallucinogens are all in your mind, because it's the drugs affecting the chemicals in your brain, so on and so forth. I would assume by keeping your eyes closed, you would then be immersed in said whatever. Like, it would be a more vivid experience, should I say. Instead of you sitting there seeing the colors melt in the trees, that sensory of perception is gone, giving you a fuller experience inside your brain, if that makes sense. You're not being distracted by what is in front of you.
Yeah, that's a good explanation. Doesn't explain why they had to be lead.
Yeah. I don't know.
Maybe, I don't know. I like watching you break this down, because when the other shit comes out, you're just gonna be like, what the fuck?
Never mind.
What the fuck? So the police officers,
suppositories.
The police, it might as well be. The police officers begin to dig a little deeper with this new knowledge about Spiritism. They find out from family members that both Miguel and Manuel were enthusiastic practicing Spiritists.
Okay.
They found a book on Spiritism in Miguel's home, which by itself isn't that big of a deal. I mean, you look around, I got books on demonic altars and serial killers and all kinds of shit, but that doesn't mean that I'm a demonic serial killer, right?
Right.
So they find this book, they flip it open, and they find a whole bunch of passages highlighted and filled with notes. One particular phrase that was constantly highlighted throughout these passages was the term intense luminosity, which could be the reason for the lead masks.
Yeah.
If they're fucking with something that's going to produce super intense light. They went out to Miguel's workshop, and there they found the scraps of lead that he used to craft both men's masks. Upon checking Miguel and Manuel's notes in the workshop, they determined that the handwriting written in the notebook did not belong to either man. So whoever jotted that down was someone from beyond the rent.
Yeah, it was like somebody. Oh, you think it was from beyond?
No. I meant beyond just those two.
Oh, I was going to say it's kind of like an ingredient list then.
Yeah, I used the wrong term there. Exactly. Makes the case that more strange, because it implies that not only did someone else know what they were planning and where they were going to be, but it also, as you just said, it seems like someone was instructing them on what they were doing.
Yeah, they probably met up with some other practitioner, and they're like, "Yeah, if you want to achieve said goal, here's the process to do that."
Manuel's wife confirmed the Spiritism, and she said she saw Manuel arguing with another Spiritist shortly before his death. That Spiritist was Alicio Gomez. Remember him? The one that dropped him off at the bus station.
That's weird.
So that's
an ironic connection.
He immediately became suspect numero uno.
Yeah, I would be in the camp.
But he was eliminated super quickly because he had an alibi that put him at his house hundreds of miles away at the time of death.
Yeah, but there could still be something there with that dude. He could have pointed him. He could have gave him the list. He could have pointed him to the person that gave him the list, so on and so forth.
Clearly, this made the police want to hyper-focus on Gomez, who said that not only he, Miguel, and Manuel were practicing spiritists, but all of the electrical technicians in the district were practicing spiritists as well. That's hard to say.
So it was a group thing.
Yeah, he was vague on the spiritism with the police. He did admit that he and the two men were part of a secret occult society of scientific spiritists in the area. He then went on to tell them of two specific incidents that may directly tie to the deaths of the two friends. About to get way more bonkers.
Okay, let's do this.
Few months before the men's death, Gomez, Manuel, and Miguel built a device. A device essentially to conduct a seance, so to speak. They decided to test this in Manuel's garden. The objective of this device, stick with me, contact spirits.
Okay.
Not that crazy. People do it all the time. Not spirits here on Earth. Spirits on Mars.
Okay.
The operating premise here is that if we can contact the spirits of the dead on this planet and other planets have life, they must also have death. So it should be just as easy to contact the spirits of other planets in the spiritual realm as well.
But what would give them the assumption that there was life on Mars? Outside of them just being crazy.
Well, I mean, we believe in UFOs.
Right. Yeah, no, I get that. But I just, it's weird to kind of pick a specific place.
And probably 1966, Martian was probably a big hot term.
That makes sense.
So Mars is probably like the closest planet. They're
Yeah.
like, well, if we're going to do this, let's just go.
That,
right?
and to be fair, is probably one of the most talked about planets of
Mars
all the planets.
Is Mars right next? Mercury, Venus, Earth.
Yeah,
Mars is next door.
Yeah.
Mars is neighbor. They're like, we can contact ghosts here, but let's try to contact.
I get that. I see that.
Alien ghosts.
It is weird. It is weird that the whole group of them was into it. It's weird and it's not, but at the same time, it does. You got to understand when you have a group of guys together, that breeds ground for competition, for overconfidence, which because of the entire group, you only have these two dudes who actually went through with said thing. You know what I mean? So that could be, well, let's be the first ones to do it, or we'll do it. Yeah, we'll do it. Yeah, we got this.
It gets better. It gets better. You're
good.
You're spot on.
Good.
I feel like we are them. But
of course,
I write this down. Yes, you heard that right. Alien ghost contact Ouija board machine.
Hell yeah.
I feel like my paranormal life has come full circle contacting alien ghosts.
I'm with it. I mean, I would definitely try it.
I fuck with it.
Yeah. And I mean, if we were in that, which we are, but being in that world, like if we thought it was a good idea, we'd do it too.
I'm literally shocked that more people haven't tried to contact alien spirits as opposed to just contacting aliens or contacting spirits.
I mean,
we need more hyper focus on contacting alien spirits.
That is actually something I really hadn't considered in that context.
Me either.
We talk about like interdimensional beings or higher density beings.
I crack jokes about Loch Ness Monster being ghost of a dinosaur, but I never thought, damn, just contact an alien ghost.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, I'm kind of in the same camp. Really,
it hit me just like a right hook. I'm like,
duh.
Why the fuck didn't anybody do that before?
Yeah, duh.
Like, I want to talk shit on these two, but I'm like, bros, you might be onto something.
Yeah, yeah.
Question: did the device work?
Yes.
No.
Oh.
Did it explode?
No.
Yes.
Ah, damn it.
It did explode in the garden, which, funnily enough, I saw in an interview, the wife did confirm. She's like, there was a giant explosion in the garden. That's weird.
I didn't know they were trying to contact Mars ghosts, but
it left a strange residue like dust all over the garden, which Manuel believed that the powder was proof that there had been a spiritual present, maybe even an extraterrestrial spiritual present. When they went on to say they could not identify what the strange powder was.
You're also not scientists with microscopes and stuff that can test that shit.
That's true, but it's also
you're an electrician, bro.
They're the ones that built the machine, so they knew what went into it.
Yeah, also valid point.
That's what they said.
Valid point.
And I note here, family does confirm that there was an explosion in the backyard.
I think they might be getting a little too overconfident in their abilities. The fact that there is some weird powder and they're like, it was alien. It was alien ghosts.
Just hold that thought.
Confirmed. Confirmed. I'm just going to start doing that with life.
As me and Kyle are proof positive of, if at first you don't succeed at trying to contact Martian ghosts, you try and try again. And that they did.
And it kept blowing up.
We're about to find out.
I fucking hope so.
On June 13th, 1966, the three traveled about 20 miles away because they didn't want to blow their house up. They already blew their garden up.
That's a wise decision.
To Atafona Beach, where they tried their hand at contacting alien ghosts again.
Let's blow shit up on the beach.
As soon as they get to the beach and begin setting up, granted, they didn't even have their device hooked up yet, an intensely bright object appeared near the shore, hovering over the shore for about 5 minutes before this object rose into the sky, emitted a flash of blinding light, luminosity, and disappeared with an explosion that was reported up to 10 miles away.
So now these guys are doubling the fuck down. They're saying we're on to something, boys.
Yeah. Yeah.
They are stoked beyond belief.
Yeah. They didn't even get
these guys are put together up right now.
They didn't even get their shit together before they saw a goddamn UFO explode on the beach.
Yeah.
After the UFO.
You know what I wish happened? I hope that those aliens were mocking those guys. They mimicked an explosion to go, you're fucking dumbasses.
Yeah, you think your explosion was good? Watch this.
Yeah.
People heard it 10 fucking miles away.
That's awesome.
So you have confirmation of the alien explosion, which is just fucking bonkers to me. After the explosion, what was the beach covered with?
The dust.
The same type of dust that covered the garden.
Gosh damn it.
So
that is weird.
That made Manuel and Miguel be like, we made contact the first time. The first time was a success.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
They reevaluated everything that they did, and everything is now proof. And they're on the way.
As absolutely asinine as it sounds, as batshit crazy as it sounds, it was corroborated by multiple witnesses not associated with any of the men. They saw the light. They saw the craft. They heard the explosion. It was so intense that they even brought in local law enforcement, the Brazilian Navy, and the Brazilian Air Force to also investigate what went on the beach that day. The Navy confirmed that they picked up 3 unknown, unchanneled ham radio signals the day before, communicating back and forth. One of them was linked to Miguel and Manuel. The other 2 could not be accounted for.
So now, are they actually suggesting that UFOs have ham radios?
No.
Okay, good. Because I was going to be like, that's probably not true.
They're suggesting that there is probably like an underground network of these spiritists.
Oh, shit. And they all linked up and they're like, hey, let's make a fucking triangle.
They all linked up.
Yeah.
And they told these guys to go to this beach at this time. And either they knew that this UFO was going to be there, or somehow they manifested whatever the fuck that this was.
I fuck with that. I don't for a fucking second believe they knew the UFO was going to be there. But I do believe that these 3 groups of dumbasses were able to somehow facilitate an encounter. I don't know how. I really do think it is, you know what? It would be like us stumbling across an occult manuscript and us doing our best, I'll put it that way, to efficiently recreate said ritual. Because in no way, shape, or form do I think that we would perfect said ritual. I think that we would do our best and garner some result of said attempt.
We would blow our hands off.
That's essentially what I'm getting at. We would not perfect this at any way, in any means. But I think that there would be our best. That's as much we would do our best.
How strange is that? That there was a fucking UFO on the beach.
Yeah.
Which it also kind of brings you into the question of manifestation, because like Brazil is a pretty big hotspot for UFOs. Is it a coincidence that there's also so many spiritists
I don't think so.
in Brazil?
I think it's a fair assumption.
It's weird, right?
Yeah.
It's weird.
I think it's definitely fair.
I do think they go hand in hand.
Yeah, because it's no different than essentially outside of whatever mechanism they're using. Outside of that, it's no different, in my opinion, than the CE5 movement.
There was also a report a couple months earlier of further up the coast toward Rio de Janeiro, another bright light explosion on the beach just a few months before. So it's not.
The explosion aspect is rather interesting.
It is weird.
You don't hear very many UFO cases that end with a auditory boom.
Yeah, or just bomb dust everywhere.
Yeah.
After the news of the body started making its rounds, a local woman named Senora de Sousa came forward to tell police that she and her children were driving by the hill that the bodies were found on the night of the 17th. She said she saw what she described as an orange oval-shaped craft that seemed to be engulfed in flames at the top of the hill. She said it was bobbing up and down, rising and falling from the sky. She also reported that there were bright blue beams of light radiating from all over this craft. It's noted that Sonora was a well-respected woman in the community. So as the cops released her statement, they kept a lot of the crazier parts out of it to kind of protect her a little bit and just keep them private. Once she was such a well-respected member of the community that once she came out with her story, other witnesses decided to come forward to be like, oh, hey, we saw a bright light on the hill too, yada, yada. Interestingly enough, almost all of them shared the exact same strange details that Sonora had that were not released to the public. So they have multiple witnesses.
It's definitely confirmation then.
Multiple witnesses corroborate that there either was a UFO or that these guys somehow manifested some sort of energy on this hill.
I mean, it does. Regardless, they made some type of contact. Now, beyond that, I mean, the UFO description matches a lot of descriptions that we've heard before. This fiery type object. I haven't quite heard the blue beams coming out everywhere, but regardless of that, like we talked about before, the radiation alone could have affected these guys' hearts. And to be honest with you, the fucking stress of the situation could have affected these dudes. The fact that, because think about that, it's one thing, like we always say, there's one thing to believe, it's a whole nother thing to experience.
To manifest a Martian ghost UFO.
Yeah, or whatever label you want to throw at it, it doesn't matter at this point. It's weird. Because if they're all spiritists or whatever, that whole community is easily convinced of these situations. You know what I mean? Like, it's not going to take a lot for these people to be like, oh shit, like that was this, you know. Yeah. And Margaret, the town saint, says she saw it too, so it's definitely this. Like they're all just 100% in.
Yeah, it's kind of where it ends for a few years until 1969, when a man that's already serving 50 years comes forward and says he knows exactly what happened to the two men and that he was part of the essential hit that killed them.
Okay. I mean, now we got a hit. Okay.
Which he said that he was one of the three people in the Jeep. I don't even remember his name because nobody believes this part of the story anyway, because it's just so asinine, and the dude was already doing 50 years. So he's probably trying to like throw in a little extra shit to get some shaved off. But he said he was working with one of the higher ranking spiritists from Brazil to take out Manuel and Miguel because their research was getting too close to the truth. Contacting the alien spirits, which, as I said, nobody believes this because they started to investigate it, started drilling him. They investigated the woman that he named, and then it just fell off into nothing.
How did he hit the guys?
What did he do? That they were poisoned.
with a poison that was never detected in the autopsy.
Ta-da.
So okay. Say I do believe that. There's only one explanation for that, essentially, and that would be government intervention at that point.
Which he never even mentioned.
Because, come on. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm sure that there are people out there with ancient handed down knowledge that would be able to acquire or create some poison that would be undetected. Sure. I could even buy that. But dude, you have been in, you're doing 50. All he'd have to do is link up the time frame, right? And if he was in prison while this happened, you'd be like, okay, man, nice try there, dude.
Yep. And all of the details he gave them were details that were available to the public.
Yeah, and clearly dude's a psychopath because he's serving 50 fucking years.
Yeah, I don't even know what he was in 50 for, but probably nothing good.
Probably nothing good. Probably killing people.
So that's kind of where we're at. Most people do not buy into old boys. Hey, we killed them because it went nowhere in investigation. Nobody else was arrested.
Especially if he was unable to give any further information that was not released to the public.
Yeah.
Or that was definitely whatever.
Left with two men dead on a hill, possibly contacting Martian ghosts, which is about as good as when we started. You know, like, was it a doomsday cult? Were they trying to time travel? Was it an elaborate murder stages of suicide? Was there a plot to, I don't know, buy a nuclear reactor?
Dude, I fuck with the idea that this group of people believed in it, and I think they did their best, and somehow they pulled it out of their ass and got results that they weren't quite ready for.
There's all kinds of theories that maybe like the Hermes, the man Hermes on the hill that kind of essentially stopped his heart with what's in the death report, stopped his heart with the hallucinogenics. Maybe they went out there and experimented with that, because there were some people who were in the realm of spiritism said that this was a common practice for people to take hallucinogenics and go out in the mountains and try to contact aliens, essentially. So it's not that far of a stretch to think maybe they overdid it a little bit and didn't make it out.
Well, think of the stress that it would put on your body.
Wearing lead sunglasses.
You're wearing lead sunglasses. You're dropping acid. And then somehow, some way, a fucking UFO comes down over top of you. And it's a little intense.
Yeah. And the fact that all of the scenarios have witnesses corroborating some sort of UFO activity is fucking bonkers.
Yeah.
Which leads me to my last and final theory, which is my favorite one ever put out, period, the end. The two men were killed in an alien hit.
I'm with that. Yep.
Because
that makes the most sense.
Think about it. They created their little machine in the garden to make contact. It explodes. They're like, well, that didn't work out the way we wanted it to, but we may have some result in the dust. They're like, let's do it bigger and better this time. Somehow the spiritists decide to try to manifest a UFO where these three guys are going to be. They get there. The UFO manifests. So we have alien contact. They are there. Dudes start hooking their machine up. It goes south bigger than before. Blows up the fucking UFO. Casualties right off the rip. So all of the alien homies are thinking, pissed. You motherfuckers just killed a crew. Now we're going to get you back.
Yeah.
So then they put out into the ether, put out into the spiritism realm, hey, there's another chance to manifest here at Nidaroy. We're going to do it. It's going to be bigger and better than ever. Make sure you bring your lead glasses. Here comes the two culprits, Manuel and Miguel, not Gomez, because they didn't tell him about it. They're like, you get the fuck out of here. Manifest. Go there, put their lead goggles on. Like, we got these two. Bada bing, done. UFO gone.
I'm with it. It's definitely the best answer.
Yeah. UFO
I
assassination.
mean, it doesn't explain the other homie that died the same way, but we'll just push that off to the side.
Yeah, maybe he was exploding stuff.
I was gonna say you'd have to have confirmation that he's building the same devices and blowing.
I want to know what the fuck the device is so I can try to build it.
I don't know.
You'd think it couldn't be that crazy.
No, they're not that. I mean, they're not that smart.
Oh, I mean, they did contact alien ghosts.
Yeah, and we have yet to do that. So
that's what that we know.
That we know of. Yeah,
we haven't cut out our lead glasses yet.
This is also true.
Are they glasses? Because you can't see through them.
Yeah.
Masks. That's why they're called masks.
Yeah, it's like a sleep mask.
Yeah. But that's it.
It's decent.
Weird.
Fucking
weird.
Decent.
I'm kind of glad that I finally dug into it because a lot of that shit is left out in a lot of the little blurbs that you find information about.
Yeah, I didn't know about half of it.
It's strange. I have some sources here that I need to cite, but I can't remember where they are.
I know a long time ago we referenced the episode.
Yeah.
I think it was in the first several episodes. I think it was when we were doing an episode on like alien mutilations, essentially, of humans.
Yeah, I bet it, because I mean, it is kind of the same.
Yeah.
Mental Floss has a good article on it. Ghosttheory.com has a good article on it. Definitely check that one out. It's got pictures of the mask, pictures of the letters, pictures of the men, pictures of the bodies, all sorts of stuff there. Historicmysteries.com has a good one.
It sucks. It sucks.
I use Wikipedia to learn about Spiritism, and there was a solid podcast that I also listened to it's called This One's a Doozy. They did an episode on it a couple years back, which pretty much covers all the information that I covered because I also used a lot of their sources, which there's a lot of good ones. The one thing that they had that I didn't have was a transcript from Gomez, an interview with Gomez, which doesn't exist anymore. So I was bummed on that.
Well, that sucks.
But it's a good episode. Tell us what you think about it. Where are we at? Did we contact alien ghosts? Were they just fucking around with stuff and blew themselves up to the point to where they didn't actually have any injuries at all? Is it Spiritism? Does Spiritism, the amount of Spiritists in that country, does it essentially bring more UFO encounters to that country? Because Brazil, again, has a lot of stuff going on. It makes you wonder if the two are related because it sounds like they are.
Yeah, I feel like it is. And I'm with it. I mean, I definitely think they made contact with something. I can't say that it was alien spirits, but I also don't know.
Yeah. Well, one thing we do know is that there were UFOs and there were explosions and the Navy knew about it.
Yeah, and a more or less undefined death.
Yeah.
They said that there were cardiac problems, but they didn't specifically say a heart attack is what killed them.
Yeah, what are the odds that two healthy 30-year-old men both die of a heart attack at the same time?
Yeah, it's rather strange. I would say extremely rare odds.
That's what I'm thinking. So, pretty interesting little case there.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, that'll do it for today. Check us out at all our social media. It's Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, Discord, Reddit. Search up the Holosky Podcast and you'll find us there. If you have any comments or concerns about this episode, or if you have your own theories, I am here for it. I want to hear it. The weirdest shit ever. Until we meet again, stay safe, stay weird, and if you try to contact alien Martian ghosts, just remember to wear your lead masks.